I was 11 years old when I first realized my family was a stage production, and I was just the stagehand. My sister, Brooke, was the star, always in the spotlight, always needing more glitter, more costumes, more praise. My parents, Gary and Patricia, were the directors, obsessed with the reviews from the neighbors and the country club. And me. I was Kelsey. I was the one who moved the heavy sets in the dark so the show could go on. It was 11:45 at night when my phone lit up on the nightstand, cutting through the silence of my small, modest apartment. A single notification from my mother. I swiped it open, my heart hammering against my ribs, expecting a medical emergency or a frantic call for a loan. Instead, I saw a photo. It was my childhood bedroom, the only place in that hollow mansion that had ever felt like it belonged to me. But in the photo, it looked like a crime scene. My books, my high school awards, my clothes, everything I had left in storage while I worked to build my life, was shoved into black garbage bags like literal trash. Underneath, the caption read, "We need this room for Brooke's new walk-in closet. Come get your junk by morning or it goes to Goodwill." 3 seconds later, a second notification popped up. My sister Brooke had hearted the message. My reaction wasn't tears. It was a complete, systemic freeze. I just stared at the screen until it went black, my reflection staring back at me in the glass, pale, exhausted, and finally, fundamentally done. For 29 years, I had been the invisible architecture of this family. My parents lived in a world where appearances were the only currency that mattered. To the neighbors in Spokane, they were old-money country club members with a Mercedes in the driveway and a rising star daughter in PR. To me, they were a financial sinkhole. They didn't know that I knew about the foreclosure notices 5 years ago. They didn't know that I was the one who logged into my father's bank account every month to pay off the $15,000 in credit card debt he racked up trying to look wealthy. I was a logistics manager. My entire career was built on moving assets efficiently, spotting bottlenecks, and preventing collapse. And for a decade, my family was the biggest bottleneck I had to manage. I remember the first time I paid a bill for them. I was 22, fresh out of college with a degree I paid for myself by working 3 jobs. My mother called me weeping about a declined card at the grocery store. It wasn't groceries she was buying, it was vintage champagne for Brooke's graduation party. I paid it. I told myself it was a one-time thing. But then it became the electric bill. Then the car lease. Then Brooke's rent in the city because she couldn't focus on her career if she was stressed about money. Why did I do it? Why did I pour nearly half my salary into a black hole while I drove a 10-year-old sedan and shopped at discount stores? For a long time, I told myself it was duty. But staring at those trash bags, I finally admitted the truth. It wasn't duty. It was rent. When you grow up as the spare part in a machine built to worship someone else, you start to believe that your existence is a debt. You believe that you take up space you haven't earned. So you pay. You pay in silence. You pay in cash. And you pay in dignity, hoping that if the check is big enough, they might finally let you sit at the table. I had normalized their cruelty so thoroughly that I thought it was just the cost of doing business. But the rent had just gone up. They didn't just want my money anymore, they wanted my eraser. They wanted to replace the physical evidence of my childhood with a closet for the golden child. I stood up and walked to my desk. I didn't drive to their house to beg. I didn't call to scream. I sat down at my computer and opened a spreadsheet I hadn't looked at in years. It was titled Family Support. I had tracked every cent, every bailout, every transfer. I scrolled to the bottom. The number staring back at me wasn't just a figure, it was a testament to my own stupidity. $250,000. That was the price of my admission to a family that just revoked my membership. A week went by. I assumed my things were rotting in a landfill. I didn't ask. On Tuesday, a calendar invite arrived from my mother, Brooke's VP celebration. 6 p.m. The Onyx Room. No hope you can make it. Just a demand for my presence as a prop in their family tableau. I showed up because I needed to see the machine operating one last time before I dismantled it. The venue was exactly their style. Too much marble, food that looked expensive but tasted like nothing. Brooke was the center of attention, wearing a silk dress that cost more than my first car. She was beaming, telling everyone how she had manifested this VP role. They didn't know that 3 months ago, I was the one who rewrote her resume. I built her portfolio. I coached her through the interview questions. Tonight, she was the genius, and I was the background noise. My father, Gary, tapped a spoon against a glass. To my daughter, Brooke, he boomed. She is the fire of this family, the vision, the one who proves the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Then his eyes slid over to me. His smile didn't waver, but his eyes went cold. And to Kelsey, our steady rock. Always consistent. While Brooke reaches for the stars, Kelsey keeps our feet on the ground. We need people like that, don't we? A ripple of polite, condescending laughter moved through the room. I was the dirt, she was the star. I was about to walk out when my father cornered me near the kitchen. The smile was gone. He looked sweaty. There's a problem with the card, he whispered. The catering manager needs the final payment now, $4,500, or they're closing the bar. Just handle it, Kelsey. I'll wire you the money Monday. Handle it. Those 2 words were my entire life. I looked at him. He didn't look ashamed. He looked entitled. I didn't argue. I walked to the manager, pulled out my debit card, and paid. But when the receipt printed, I didn't crumple it. I took a high-resolution photo and emailed it to myself. Everything all right? The manager asked. Perfect, I said. Just keeping records. That $4,500 wasn't a gift. It was the final purchase price of my freedom. They thought I was the rock that kept them grounded. They were about to find out what happens when the rock starts rolling downhill. That night, I didn't sleep. I went to war. I brewed a pot of black coffee and stopped being Kelsey the doormat. I became Kelsey the forensic auditor. I accessed the shared cloud drive my father had carelessly given me the password to years ago. I downloaded everything: tax returns, credit card statements, mortgage documents. It was nauseatingly fascinating. I saw the $20,000 business loan I gave them 4 years ago. It didn't go to his firm, it went to a luxury cruise they told me they won in a raffle. I saw the $500 dinners they ate while I was eating expired yogurt to save for car tires. They were burning my future to keep their vanity warm. The final total, $263,000. But then I found the real bomb. I pulled the title on the family home, the 4-bedroom colonial I had been kicked out of. There was a lien. A secret second mortgage taken out 3 years ago with predatory interest. They had leveraged the family home to buy a weekend cabin for Brooke and her friends. And they hadn't made a payment on the primary mortgage in 4 months. They were 30 days away from foreclosure. They were partying on the edge of a cliff while demanding I pay the bar tab. The old Kelsey would have panicked and cashed out her 401k to save them. But the old Kelsey was gone. The woman in this chair had secretly sold her logistics software company for $90 million 6 months ago. A fact they never knew because they never bothered to ask about my little computer job. I called my lawyer, Marcus, at 3 a.m. I need to make an acquisition. I want to buy a distressed debt portfolio, specifically the mortgage note for 124 Oak Street. I want to buy it before it hits auction. Set up a shell company, Phoenix Holdings. I want the deed in my hand by Friday. Kelsey, if you do this, you effectively own their debt, Marcus warned. I know, I said. And then we proceed with collections. By Friday, I was the legal holder of their mortgage. I wasn't their daughter anymore. I was their creditor. Saturday morning, Gary called. No hello. Kelsey, we have an emergency. A clerical error with the bank. Come over immediately. We need to strategize. I drove over. The house looked perfect, the Mercedes, the lawn, the facade. Inside, the tension was thick. My mother was wringing her hands. Brooke was scrolling on her phone, annoyed that money stuff was ruining her weekend. The bank is being unreasonable, Gary started. They're claiming we're behind. It's a glitch. We need liquidity, $50,000, just to hold them off. 50,000. I didn't blink. Just a bridge loan, my mother pleaded. You've always been so good with money. Think about the family image, Brooke added. If people find out Dad is in trouble, it ruins my reputation at the firm. I can't have that scandal. Your reputation, I repeated. That's the priority. Of course it is. Gary snapped. Now, how quickly can you transfer the funds? Use your 401k if you have to. I'm not liquidating my 401k, I said. Then take out a personal loan, he demanded. You ungrateful little. We raised you in this house. You're going to let us lose everything because you want to hoard your manager's salary? You're selfish, Kelsey, Brooke spat. Sitting on your money while Mom is crying. If you don't do this, my mother said, her voice turning icy, don't bother coming back. You're either with us or you're cut off. They were threatening me with the very thing I wanted. Is that your final offer? I asked. Pay up or get out? Yes. Gary hissed. Okay, I said. I'll see you Monday. I smiled all the way to the car. They thought I was coming back with a check. I was coming back with the keys. Monday morning, I put on a tailored charcoal blazer that cost more than their monthly mortgage and drove to the house. I unlocked the door with my own key. They were waiting in the dining room, looking smug. You're late, Gary said. I assume you have the check. I walked to the table and placed a thick leather portfolio on the wood. Sit down, Gary commanded. Let's get this over with. I prefer to stand, I said. And you're not calling the bank, Gary. The bank doesn't own this house anymore. What? A company called Phoenix Holdings bought the note, I said. Who the hell is Phoenix Holdings? Brooke asked. Is that some vulture fund? Are they going to evict us? Phoenix Holdings, I said, sliding the deed across the table, is a private asset management firm. And I am the sole proprietor. The silence that followed was absolute. My mother stopped pacing. Brooke's phone clattered to the floor. Gary's face drained of color until he looked like a ghost. You, he whispered. I bought the debt. I bought the second mortgage for the cabin. I own it all. Which means I am your landlord. Where did you get that money? My mother gasped. I sold my software company last year, I said. For $90 million. Gary looked like he had been punched in the gut. The daughter he knew, the doormat, was gone. 90 million? Brooke squeaked. Yes. And you have 30 days. I pulled out the notice to vacate. You can't do this. Gary sputtered. We're family. This is my home, I said. My name is on the deed. And frankly, you're terrible tenants. You haven't paid in 4 months and you've been hostile to the owner. Kelsey, please, my mother sobbed. We have nowhere to go. I'm initiating foreclosure on a defaulted asset. It's just business, Mom. Isn't that what you always told me? I looked at them. They weren't powerful. They were just 3 people who had spent their lives buying things to impress people they didn't like using money they stole from me. 30 days, I said. You can use the boxes you packed my room with. I left them in the garage. I tossed my keys on the table. They landed with a heavy, final clatter. 3 weeks later, I stood on the balcony of my new home in Sarasota, Florida. The air smelled of salt and jasmine. My phone was off. Back in Spokane, my parents were moving into a 2-bedroom condo on the outskirts of town. I own that building, too. I allowed them to rent it at market rate, a final act of grace they probably saw as an insult. Standing there watching the waves, I realized the truth. You cannot earn love from people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Moving wasn't a retreat, it was a relocation of assets. I had cut the dead weight and optimized for happiness. I started a new foundation, the Invisible Fund, to provide legal aid to people being financially abused by their families. I wanted to turn my pain into a ladder for someone else. I didn't look back at the house. I didn't check my phone. For the first time in 29 years, the invisible girl was gone. The woman on the beach was seen, powerful, and finally, undeniably free. If this story stirred something inside you, don't scroll away in silence. Tap like, it tells us these stories deserve to be told. Subscribe to Vengeful Goddess for unforgettable tales of betrayal, resilience, and justice, stories you won't hear anywhere else. Turn on the bell icon, so the next story reaches you the moment it drops. Your support keeps these voices alive. Because sometimes, revenge isn't loud, being heard is.